Unlike PSL, PaMpeR can recommend tactic names without conducting a proof search. But unlike PSL, PaMpeR cannot recommend what arguments to use for the recommended tactics.
Some proof methods work well without taking arguments, so for these problems, it does not matter. But for some proof methods, like the induction method, the choice of arguments is often crucial.
Oh no. Can we enjoy the best of the two approaches?
Now that we're back, shall we resume?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, welcome back to United Reasoning, everybody. This is the 4th episode. Following the 3rd episode, we continue discussing the paper titled PaMpeR, a proof method recommendation system for Isabelle HOL.
In the previous episode, we covered the overall idea behind PaMpeR. It is a supervised learning tool that learns how to use proof methods from Isabelle experts.
One thing I really appreciate about PaMpeR is its accessibility, as discussed in the paper. You just include the pamper.dai file and the relevant ML files in Isabelle, and you're good to go with a one-line command.
And normal users can skip the training phase if they use the off-the-shelf version of PaMpeR, right?
Exactly. That's a big strength. But there are also limitations. For example, the training process requires significant computing resources. Building the database from Isabelle's archive took over 6,000 CPU hours.
Wow, that's a hefty investment. Does this mean that PaMpeR is limited to the datasets it's trained on?
To some extent, yes. If your proof domain is very different from Isabelle's standard library, their recommendations may be less accurate. However, users can train PaMpeR on their own datasets if they wish.
I think the authors are not too worried about the domain specificity of PaMpeR for most use cases. Yutaka told me that he thinks the assertions are written in a generic way so that they can overcome most of the domain-specific challenges in typical use cases.
Yes, I think that's true. Unless we come up with our own tactics, that probably won't be an issue.
I see. Another limitation I noticed is the system's reliance on regression trees. Although they are explicable, I don't feel that they can always capture the complexity of certain proof strategies. I also read about the imbalance in the use of tactics during evaluation.
Right, Aaliya? The paper highlighted how some proof methods are used much more frequently than others. For example, tactics like simp and auto were the most used, accounting for 26.8% and 22.2% of the training data, respectively. In contrast, some tactics appeared in less than 0.1% of the training data, so there's a significant imbalance.
By the way, the preprint of this paper available on ArcSiv includes extensive tables showing the staggering data imbalances of tactic usage in the appendix, which is missing from the final version published at ACM due to the page limit. The preprint on ArcSiv is also open access, and I don't think it's any less worthy than the final version at ACM.
Oh, that's really helpful to know, Justin. I'll check out the ArcSiv version.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Justin. I think having those tables would make it easier to understand the data imbalance issues in detail.
So the regression model ends up being really good at predicting the common tactics, but maybe not so good at the rare ones?
Not quite. What's interesting is that despite this imbalance, PaMpeR still manages to have a relatively high coincidence rate for rare tactics.
And yet, PaMpeR achieved over 50% coincidence rates for some of these extremely rare tactics. This suggests that other factors, such as the use of handwritten assertions or the way the regression trees are tuned, may help to compensate for the data imbalance.
So even though the model is trained on an unbalanced dataset, it's still able to make some accurate predictions for these rare tactics or proof methods?
That's right. I think the good performance for these extremely rare proof methods is actually due to the use of handwritten assertions in the project.
And given that some of these rare tactics are specialized for particular proof scenarios, that's pretty impressive. It means that even with limited data, PaMpeR can still effectively recommend them when needed.
So even though the model is trained on a non-uniform dataset, it's still able to make some accurate predictions for these rare tactics?
It's not perfect, but for a tool like this to be able to recommend infrequently used but critical tactics is a significant achievement.
Another issue discussed in the evaluation section is the low coincidence rates among less commonly used general-purpose methods, such as the SAFE method, the Claire simp method, and the best simp method.
Yes, but this may not be a real limitation of PaMpeR. Since several general-purpose methods can handle the same problem equally well, recommending proof methods that have not been used by expert users does not mean that the recommendations are wrong.
Maybe PaMpeR recommended alternative but equally valid choices of proof methods.
That's why we should see coincidence rates as conservative estimates of true success rates. I see it now.
If you ask me, the major problem with PaMpeR was that it recommends proof method names only. It does not recommend what arguments we should pass to recommended methods.
Unfortunately, this can be seen as a true limiting factor of PaMpeR. Unlike PSL, PaMpeR can recommend tactic names without conducting a proof search. But unlike PSL, PaMpeR cannot recommend what arguments to use for the recommended tactics.
Some proof methods work well without taking arguments, so for these problems, it does not matter. But for some proof methods, like the induction method, the choice of arguments is often crucial.
Oh no. Can we enjoy the best of the two approaches?
Probably yes. I found a paper discussing how to recommend arguments for the induction method in Isabelle without executing a proof search.
Shall we discuss the paper in the next episode of UnitedReasoning?
Yes, let's do that.
In summary, PaMpeR is a fantastic tool for bridging the gap between novice and expert theorem provers. It simplifies the steep learning curve of Isabelle/HOL by transferring expertise through machine learning.
And it complements tools like PSL and PGT, making proof automation more robust and beginner-friendly.
I can't wait to try it out when I visit you in Prague.
Good attitude, Aaliya. However, I heard that Utaka decided to discontinue the maintenance of PaMpeR a few years ago.
Why? What happened?
Nothing special. At the time, he was working as a senior CPU engineer for a private company, and his theorem-proving work became a hobby project. So, he had limited time to spend on theorem proving and decided to focus on the abduction prover instead.
I also heard that he became skeptical about the value of maintaining so many assertions when he noticed that many of them were for old tactics that are no longer actively used.
Yeah. I remember he was saying that PaMpeR needed to provide accurate recommendations for these old tactics, so he could publish a strong paper, but he couldn't believe that supporting these outdated tactics would provide real utility to today's users.
I heard about the pressure for publication in academia, publish and perish or something like that.
Well, I guess it's publish or perish. Or at least that's what they used to say.
Haha, don't be so worried about the future. The good news is that he didn't actually perish, he's back in academia now. Last time we talked, he mentioned that he's considering reviving PaMpeR as part of a larger proof search engine, the abduction prover, while focusing on proof methods that are still actively used.
I heard that too. He also said he would shift from the supervised learning approach he used for PaMpeR to something based on evolutionary computation.
That way his tool could explore and learn alternative proof approaches that aren't present in existing proof scripts.
Speaking of your plans to come to Prague, how is your visa application going?
Thanks for asking. Today I got a message from the Czech Republic Embassy about the health insurance, and I'm a bit confused about what to do next.
Oh, I've been there. I recommend contacting your access. They provide excellent support for researchers moving to Europe.
Yeah, they helped me too. We'd love to help directly, but visa and insurance issues can be tricky. It's best to consult the experts.
And the best part? Your access support is usually free. At least it was for me. You should definitely try them, Aaliya.
Thanks. I'll do that. And thank you both for another great discussion.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us today. Until next time, stay curious and keep thinking. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.